All right, we are live once again. Search for Guru. Let's get some more people in the chat room real quick. I have the good brother, the beautiful brother, Awini Baba in Ghana, and we're gonna chop it up about taking back Africans taking back control of their resources, natural resources, which is our birthright. So we're just gonna go in on that. We're gonna answer some questions. If you guys have questions in the chat room, but Mr. Baba, thank you for coming back on.
Yeah, thank you very much, Dinesh Amir. I'm glad to be back on. Hi to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so without wasting time, I'd like to get into uh, the resource ownership. And
let me ask you this, and not to play. I mean, let me just ask you this question. What is the true importance of a people controlling their natural resources? And then you can take it from there. But let's pose that question.
Yeah, the true importance is that the people are, gain the maximum benefits from their resources. That's the most important and most effective thing, is that when a people source, which means they own it by virtue of the fact that their ancestors settled in an area of the earth that was rich in some kind of resource, then the best way or the benefit that can be derived is when the people take steps to take control of the resource and exploit it for their benefits, to gain the most benefit out of it. And it enhances life, as resources are supposed to be life enhancers, you see. So that's briefly what I can say about the question. But to go into the dynamics of that, it has to be borne in mind that resources, they come into being as a result of the human faculty being able to identify that a particular substance, either tangible or intangible, is of benefit to the well-being of mankind. And in order to be able to take full control of the benefits of these resources, then the people must develop certain skills to exploit the resource and to convert the resource into a finished product.
Right. Now let me ask you this. So I'm gonna tell you this story. I was in Sacramento, right? And then there was this Afghan individual, and we were talking in general just about politics or whatnot. And he said out of his own mouth, he said, and this is coming from an Afghan from Afghanistan, which is probably being right now as we speak. He says that Africans lack skills; they cannot not produce. What's the word? Finish or what's the word?
Yeah, they can't add value to the raw material, which is
right.
They
can't process. They can't process the raw materials. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, dude, you're from Afghanistan, like, right? I mean, what do you guys produce?
Yeah, you see, all of this is coming because we have allowed ourselves to be fooled by the educational system. Because look at me, what I know about Africa, I know because I did the reading on my own. You see, the African educational system is still a colonial legacy educational system. And a colonial legacy educational system will not teach Africans anything good about themselves.
Right.
And so it surprises me that when I tell people like, Garrett Morgan, invented a lot of things, the gas mask, the traffic signal, and people get shocked when I tell people Charles Drew, went into, pioneered in plasma, which has led to what we call blood banking today. Like, we never knew Africans did that. I mean, recent Africans, I don't even need to go back. I just deal with the recent inventions that Africans have put out, and people are shocked because they don't learn this in school. So there is something wrong with our educational system. When you teach a people about everybody else in the world, and you don't teach them about their ancestors, and when you do, you only teach them surface things. You don't teach them the great things their ancestors did. As far as history, we have a little bit of, there was Mali Empire, Songhai, and all of that. There's a little bit of that in there, but it doesn't go into details to bring out the technology that was being used, and it doesn't highlight the things that our ancestors invented. We invented education.
Right.
We started to name at least 10 writing systems that were invented by Africans when Europeans were not writing yet. You see, and I direct people. I assume other people are going to be listening to this. They should look up Dr. Theophile Obenga.
Okay.
From Congo. This was the right-hand man of Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop, and from Senegal. And these people did the research, and they challenged a lot of things. Chief among them, they caused a UNESCO conference to come about to discuss the peopling of ancient Egypt and the deciphering of the Meroitic script.
Right.
So there. The facts are there for people to see. It's not ambiguous. So when we have children and our people, and our people grow up not knowing these things, and our children grow up not knowing it, people can tell them all of that nonsense, and they'll listen. So why is it that Africa has not developed the technology to process raw materials? Right? That should be the question. That's an educational question. It's about whether or not African leadership has that in mind, has a strategy to go and bring the needed training, or to send people out for the needed training to come and develop those resources. They're not interested.
Right.
That's why some of us get angry when people, even in my own country, Ghana, they attack Nkrumah, because Nkrumah did that. He started a movement that sought to industrialize Ghana, industrialize Africa, because it makes no sense to be sitting on resources and you can't develop them because you have not invested into the development of those resources. You have to develop the human capacity, resources into finished goods. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this, Awini. So I was having a conversation with a friend of mine from Mali. And he was saying the issue, like, okay, so before Europeans came, we'll take chocolate, for example. Like Africans really, and correct me if I'm wrong, Africans really didn't have an interest in processing cocoa and making chocolate. Is that correct? Before Europeans came, am I right?
Yes, because cocoa was introduced into Ghana, quite recently. It came with with the arrival of the colonialists, the Europeans.
Well, but isn't the Ivory Coast the largest producer of coffee, or I'm sorry, of chocolate or cocoa? The Ivory Coast is.
Cocoa, yes.
So you're saying, like, with Ivory Coast, you're saying cocoa wasn't already there before the Europeans came?
No, you see, it was brought here from Fernando Po. I forgot the country, but it was introduced to West Africa. with the Europeans, and it became a cash crop uh, that we use for foreign exchange. So it's kind of a new crop, honestly speaking. So of course, you would understand that the interest in developing this uh, was not there. Uh, but the question is whether or not it was here before they came.
Right.
Once we have established that it is an avenue to get benefits, then we should take the steps to develop it to get those benefits out of it, right? So it's not an issue of you know who brought cocoa or how soon have we found some resources and all that. It's a matter of what is the strategy for converting those resources into finished goods.
Right. But my thing is, so since there wasn't a high demand for chocolate amongst Africans, but there's a high demand for chocolate amongst the West, say we start processing our own chocolate. What happens if the West, and I mean, this is just a theoretical question, what happens if the West says, we don't want chocolate anymore? Who's going to buy all the chocolate? Because they were saying the same thing with diamonds. You know, I mean, diamonds were like rocks. I mean, Africans were just playing with them, throwing them around. And then the West said, you know, we're going to have it. Go ahead.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that. I think the concept of people's understanding of how precious certain minerals are dates back even to the days of Kemet, right? You find gold and use of it throughout Africa. I wouldn't say some of them were just being used as rocks and so on. They were definitely precious, no matter what they were being used for. Remember that the use of a resource will vary from one culture to the next. You see, so no matter what we were using them for, they were useful. But about the cocoa and the chocolate, Africans have developed taste for new things.
Right.
All right. We consume chocolate too. So why can't we create a market for it in Africa to start with? And then if Europe and the world says we don't want chocolate anymore, then we can keep selling among ourselves. You see, fine. It may reduce the quantum sales, but at least we're getting something out of it. But I don't really think that's going to happen. Chocolate is a big commodity. We There's a beverage here called Milo. We spell Milo.
Let me ask you this. Let me ask you, where is it produced at? Is it Africa? Is it Ghanaian? Like, where is it from?
It's not from what I know. Some of it is produced here. Even we produce some chocolate here, but in low quantities. But most of it comes from Europe.
Mm-hmm. See, that's the thing. So if we have the raw product, why can't we produce it ourselves? That's why I don't understand that. Why won't at least the Ghanaian government,
That is a political question. It's a political question because the politics of the day have to make it a priority, and they have to create the environment for that to happen. Let me give you an example. We have a factory here that is producing chocolate, right? But if the government does not tighten its borders and allow people to import chocolate into this country that ends up being cheaper or even equal to what we produce here, the factories are going to run down because they're businesses, because their revenue has to always exceed expenditure in order for them to keep surviving. I don't know if you. So the government policy has everything to do with it. Even if it's a private person that comes here to produce the cocoa, they're still going to have to create the market avenue for the cocoa to be sold. So it's not just the production, it's about sustaining a chain of business that yields some profits that can keep the business going. And that's the real problem. And I'm sorry to say that our governments in this regard are just not doing anything. They have sold out. They sold out. And that's why we're not going to produce anything serious until maybe a foreign company comes in and maybe they pull some government strings and they do a thing or two here and there. But as for government, the new liberal economic system has tied the hands of government. We are now under the IMF policies, and the policies, they have a lot of strings attached. So if you go and borrow, there are a lot of things. You're decapacitated, and there are things you're allowed to do and things you're not allowed to do. You see, so that is the real problem. You have another question?
Yeah, I'm just, I'm trying to, yeah, exactly, real. What Brother Bob is saying is that the biggest obstacle from stopping this is government policies. Yeah, it's government. They sold out, and it doesn't make any sense. Awini, I was watching a video earlier this morning, and it was a pastor. He's in New York. And he was giving examples of what Europeans have built back in like medieval times, back in the 12th century, 13th century, and how they're still there. And then he got to Africa. This is a black guy, and he's saying that Africans have not built anything. Some people disagree. They said we have the pyramids, and that's about it. But he was saying that, and even to this day, he says Africans have not built anything. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, that's not true. He couldn't have said that if he had visited Zimbabwe.
Okay, so listen. Okay, let's not cut you off. So he brought up Zimbabwe, and he was like, "Yeah, some people are gonna say Zimbabwe, I guess like the stone wall or the stones or something they built." He was like, that's nothing compared to what Europeans have built. But Africans have not built anything, and they still haven't built anything without help of outside people.
No, that's not true. Africa's progress was stifled. We have to remember this and put it in context. I'm telling you, I would direct people to a book that they need to look at. Read Dr. Sheikh Anta Diop's book, Pre-Colonial Black Africa. It sets the standard, and he can show you that at the time, the Ghana Empire and even the empires in Mali, current day Mali, were thriving. No city in anywhere in Europe was any larger. You see, so all of these, things, people say all of these things and they get away with it, but that's a big overgeneralization, of the issue, because you have to remember, when people are under siege, there's no time for them to build.
Right.
You should go to Nigeria and look at the ancient kingdom, the Bini Kingdom, and see how huge those walls are. Oh, this guy.
Guys, my screen just stopped. Listen, can you hear me in the chat room? Press 1, please. Press 1. Awini.
Hello?
Yeah,
I'm back.
I don't know what happened.
The line got severed.
Yeah, it got separate. Yeah, but
the
go
line.
ahead. Finish what you're saying.
Yeah, so I can point them to that again. They should go look up the ancient in Nigeria today. The walls are still standing. These are monstrous, huge, 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 huge walls that rival any walls built anywhere in Europe. Remember that Europe's development, has been a bit more, I would say, stable than that of Africa. There's been a lot of siege in Africa, lots of wars and things, and there has not been the time for Africa to, reassert itself.
Uh-huh.
Unfortunately, that is the issue. We have always, been great, and nobody in the world who has this. So even so I want them to go book, even though that book, of course, but in looking at Africa, we have to be careful because was after today. Extension argues that the Indus Valley civilization people should look at so black civilization and still standing. And you can also America and look at this. Minds black. There's no argument about who these people were. So what we're talking about, people do the research. So yes, Africa can be blamed for not building now. And standards of building.
Hey, Bob, you're very Bob, the sound is very choppy. It's very, people can't hear you clearly.
So
hey, the people can barely hear you. The sound is very distorted.
It's tricky in myself. Hello?
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah, we hear you. We hear you. Go ahead.
It's better now.
It's better. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so where did I leave off? So I take it from there.
Man, we didn't hear you for like a minute. Well, let me ask you. Let me ask you this, Awini. There's a guy in the chat room that just said the information that you provided about cocoa was wrong. Remember, it was Tete Kwashi who brought cocoa to Ghana, and Ghana was the highest cocoa producer before Kwame Nkrumah was out of office. Is that true?
Yeah, that's true. I never said, but I told you it was introduced. It doesn't come from Ghana and Ivory Coast. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Even Ivory Coast, it doesn't come from there. It came around the time when the British and the other Europeans were here. And this was being exported as a cash crop before Nkrumah. Nkrumah became president officially in 1957. I'll put it that way. But he was running the government way earlier than that, around 1951. So that's what I tried to say is Tete Kwashi got it. Let him do the research. He got it. Where did he get it from? Kwashi got it from.
Zion Roots, where did Tete Kwashi get the cocoa from? And then you can continue, Baba. Let me wait for him to respond back. Zion Roots, if you're still there, where did Tete Kwasha get the cocoa from?
He got it from a place called Fernando Po, which sounds Portuguese to me. But the main point was that it's not indigenous to Ghana or West Africa. That's the point. And so it was introduced, and it came at a time. Yeah, so they had a lot to do with that.
Okay.
Yeah. So back to my main point. And management of resources in Africa. Look at it from our communal point of view. When there's a resource such as a dam or any resource that is huge enough or to benefit everybody in the community, or it cannot be owned by one person, then the community is brought in to the picture, and usually there's a leader of the community that sees to it that of the land are shared, and essentially people benefit from the exploitation of this resource.
Right.
So be it a water source, anything. There are some resources that are vested in the hands of the chief or the king, and he is supposed to oversee the management of these resources. So the concept of single ownership or private ownership of communal, what we will consider communal resources, it's not African. From what I know, it's not African, because it doesn't make sense for us to have, let's say, a source of water, and then we allow one person to own it. The others will have to pass through him or her to, benefit from the resource. So much the foundation of resources or sharing of the benefits of resources has been there with us, and it hasn't been a problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
And in all honesty, when you think about it, it's a bit disappointing that the trajectory Africa is going today, because we have turned our backs on our ancestors. Our ancestors, some of them literally died to secure these resources for us. You see, and they did it in the spirit of, this community love, that we should all benefit, and these come from God or nature, but we happen to live in the area, so we should all benefit. So the new or modern Africans to allow, for instance, a source of water to be given to a private company, and this is happening a lot now, given to a private company, and then the company kind of processes the water and then lays the pipes, tap water at home. But if they do it, the modern African, they allow this to be done in a way that disenfranchises or the original owners of that water resource, then I think it's a disappointment, and it's a sad development that is going on in Africa when you think about it, that our ancestors will leave us great resources to a private developer who gets a ridiculous percentage. That's my problem with these deals, is that the private developer gets sometimes up to 80% of the resource, and then if it's a utility, he then sells the utility to the original owners, and then he pays what you call a royalty to the chief, and the chiefs are selling out to. We have to mention that there's this elitism in Africa. This has always been the problem. The elites selling out to get richer, and they don't care about anybody else.
Right.
So when the private developers come to Africa, they go to the elites, they go to the politicians, call on the chiefs and traditional rulers, and they get the go ahead to go and exploit.
Right.
But question should be, is the community or the country getting a fair share? And usually the answer is no.
No.
A fair share. And this is un-African. We can't allow this to continue. It is people have not conceived of it this way, but it's a huge disappointment and insult to our ancestors. For me, if you think of ourselves now, for you to labor, you have a kid, you have a son, for you to labor and leave your son a house, and for your son to turn around, if you have other children along the line, for one of your children to turn around and sell the house,
right,
and put part of the money in his pocket, that's out of it, or give them bits and crumbs of the proceeds. That's the biggest insult that we can offer to our ancestors, and we should not allow this to continue. This is going to deeply entrench division in Africa. Is going to broaden or widen the gap, be a class struggle. This is what is going to, it's already going on, but it's going to get worse because people are going to ask, especially young people, why do you, the leader, think that you have the right to sell off our resources at a price that only you and your small cabinet determine? We don't know the processes you go through to agree on a deal, and then you just pretty much do that and you get rich off of it. So what do we get from it? That's the question people are going to ask. So if you go to Ghana recently, about 2 days ago or so, a day or two, we won time case against the Ivory Coast because there's an oil.
What was that about? I read about that somewhere. I saw it.
Yeah, so some more oil fields were found around the border with the Ivory Coast.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And there was and this is offshore, so it's in the ocean, right? So we had to take it to the courts, an international, court, to determine who the oil belongs to, whether it's Ghana or Ivory Coast.
You said international court. International court where?
In Germany.
So why would Africans have to go to Germany to handle land?
That's a question you would have to ask the leaders, but the consensus was that you can't determine it in Ghana or Ivory Coast, so you have to take it to a neutral ground. My question was, why couldn't you country to take it to? But these are some of the things that only our leaders can explain honestly. You see, so they took it to Germany, and that's where we got the verdict in our favor. A day or two, about 2 days now, and so it's big news here. But I'm not excited about it in any way, because I remember when we first started drilling oil in this country, and expecting, but the oil has come, and we're not seeing any benefit at the individual level. Things are pretty much the same. They're even worse because we went back to the IMF
again
after we discovered oil. Yeah, we're still under the IMF as we speak. You see, so what is the point? And that's why the resource oil important. The more we discover resources, the worse off we seem to be. Because I have come to a conclusion that it doesn't matter how many so-called resources we discover in this country. Energy, we have diamonds, we have gold, we have bauxite, we have virtually every mineral is here. So why is it that a country that is less than 30 million still cannot sustain its own budget?
Right.
Go to the IMF, and this is a chain that keeps it's continuous, never ending. So the answer is we are not in control of the resources, and I am surprised because the discovery of oil came around 2007. I'm shocked that even between 2007 and now, we have not been able to confidently say, okay, we have trained this number of students in oil.
Mm-hmm.
How we can facilitate an oil drilling company, even if you say government should not own it, but the government can still facilitate because most of the proceeds come to Ghana. We have, you know, these, groups of people always saying things, but the question that they don't want to answer is why is it that Africa does not own and exploit and add value to its resources? It's because the community concept has, fallen by the wayside, and we have laid ourselves bare to outside forces to exploit us, and they're doing this successfully with the help of our elites. And as I try to say, it's insulting to our ancestors. It means our ancestors just, they just wasted their blood.
Right.
They did, because how would I die to protect land only for my descendants to come and sell it off cheap and exploit things in a manner that benefits somebody from somewhere else who had nothing to do with my struggle?
Right.
And who pretty much were the people who were causing, our problem. You see, so it's hypocritical. It doesn't make sense, but it needs to be addressed head on. And just to go into that, what can be done, I feel where the blow can actually come from, the thrust can come from government. I think the citizenry, and that's why some of these shows are important. The citizenry should get education. The citizenry should begin to understand macroeconomics, the economics of resource management, and the citizenry grow and develop the think tanks,
right,
to put pressure, and we can make presentations and convince the public we're in this cycle of dependency and always begging around the world with our cup in hand, with no dignity, right, with no respect,
risking your life, by going to Libya and getting on boats headed to Italy and drowning. Yeah.
I mean, this is all part of it. You come to Africa that are not, but the citizens want to leave anyway because they've given up on their countries, basically.
Right.
They love their countries, but, these elites, you see, they are the ones, they are the guard dogs of the imperialists now. When the imperialists left Africa, they put the elites in charge. And these elites, they will kill you to protect themselves and their masters. That's what's going on. It's sad, but that's what's going on. And until people, especially the youth, can come to understand the dynamics of some of these things, they're going to keep hoping and it's not going to come. It will only come when the citizenry, especially the youth who have the numbers, basic macroeconomics, and understand how these things work and how they impact their lives. You see, and when that happens, then there will be an awakening. And when there's an awakening, nobody can stop it. Nobody can stop the awakening, because you have to shoot me. If I change my mind and say, I'm voting for a progressive party now, I'm not voting for you. You can't do anything. You may try to retain power, but it'll be illegal by the rules of the game. See, so we need more of this. We need more education into how our resources were managed in the past and how they are being managed now. You see, and now we are clients in our own country. We drink water, and we pay the things we use, which is not bad, it's good. But the idea should be that if we pay for something, then the money ultimately should go back into the system, not to a private developer who ships the money to his hometown or his country. You see, that's one aspect of it. You wanted to ask?
Oh, go ahead and finish your thought. Then we have a response. Zion Roots gave us a response in regards to their cocoa.
Oh yeah, read it out. Read it out.
Okay,
read
it
it
says
out.
in 1870, Tete Kouachi undertook a voyage to the Spanish colony Fernando Po, now Bioko,
That's what I said.
in Equatorial Guinea. About 6 years later, he returned to Ghana with several cocoa beans.
So that's what I've been trying to say. It's new to this area of Africa, and then that's what I was trying. And well, I've not looked into even how it got to Fernando Po, because that's also another thing you might want to look into. Some of the things we consume here, they're not African. For instance, I looked at maize. Corn, right?
Right.
Corn is not African. How did it get here? Corn originally grows in Southern America.
Right.
Plant of corn is what you call the teosinte, and corn was pretty much made out of this by scientific methods. So all of these new things that cropped up, like cassava and all of these things, they're not indigenous to Africa.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So we need to be careful with what we call, typical African. You see. So my point and to him was that voyage by Tete Kwashi it happened at the time the Europeans were still here, and it is the Europeans pushed that to become a big investment. Once we were exporting the cocoa to, you see, so that's what made it a business, because they wanted the cocoa. This became their farm, just like they were growing sugarcane.
My bad. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Something had popped up.
Areas in Jamaica. Yeah, just like the sugarcane plantations in the Americas.
Right.
You see, this was a business. So all of these were going to feed the European companies, and that was the basis of it. And yes, he's right. At one point in time, we were the highest in the world in terms of production, but Ivory Coast has taken over that. You see, but all of this doesn't really. That's why I don't like to get into the details of this, because it's just sad, because you don't produce something and then you stop looking for ways to benefit the most out of it. That's what any logical person would do. So what is stopping us from adding value to the cocoa and saying, okay, then we can sell you chocolate now because you're making chocolate out of it. You're making all these beverages out of it. We can sell them to you. And we can ensure that they are of international standard and all of that. Why not? You see? So not to get into all of that because I just want to, glance over it and make the point that no matter what resource you look at, and last time you talked about Dangote, Aliko,
right.
Dangote. Now Dangote is a private businessman, right? I don't know where to start with. He had a lot of money to start his business from his relatives. They were rich. So after university, he schooled in Egypt. After university, he came back and he took up the business. But he is a transnational, billionaire, and he has been able to penetrate the Ghanaian market because he has come in strictly as an international businessman. There's a difference between what he's doing and what some of us are campaigning for, because he's a successful businessman, all right, but he's a private businessman, which is good. But I feel that a lot of Ghanaians and Africans, if you take the numbers, very few, I'd say under 1%, can become like Dangote, Aliko within the shortest possible time.
Right.
Right. So the argument is that the government that controls the policies and the purse can strategically invest on behalf of the citizenry who don't have the money like Dangote, Aliko, and others, right? And we can, create and form partnerships that will, grow into something big. But the basic thing that I wanted to get across is we have disappointed our ancestors, and they must be really mad right now because, for your ancestor to die and leave you something and hope that, you'll make the best out of it, and you turn around and sell it cheaply, that's the biggest insult.
Okay. Let me ask you this. So in the chat room, Real wants to know, are you familiar with the teachings of Elijah Muhammad, and how can we tie his teachings into Africans taking back control of their natural resources?
Yeah, I mean, I read about a lot of people. Yeah, Elijah Muhammad. Yeah, you see, what I like about Elijah Muhammad is he talks about, a nation. So, NOI, if I'm correct, Nation of
Right,
Islam.
Nation of Islam.
Yeah, so the premise is good because it is seeking to take control of our own resources, like we are preaching now, and his teachings encourage us to invest with each other and to generate revenue among ourselves to invest. It's a good model, but the problem is it becomes religious.
Okay, and did he mention, not from a religious standpoint, but the warnings? I don't know which warnings he's speaking of, but continue.
So if not from the religious standpoint, is good because we have to bear in mind not everybody belongs to or believes in our religion. We all have our separate belief systems, which we have a right to. I don't have a problem with any belief system as long as it does not enslave the mind, and that's why I subscribe to what Professor Clark says about religion, is that embrace it and turn it into an instrument of our liberation. That every religion can be an instrument of our liberation if we make it so. You see, so that's basically my approach. But yeah, Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, from what I have read, have come a long way, and it's still growing in America under Louis Farrakhan, and it seems like a well organized group.
Right.
Yeah, and the discipline is there. Sometimes people need religion in order for them to be more organized, to work differently. So uh, basically, the model is good. But like I said, if religion is the central rallying point, if you take it out, then what happens? What do you replace it with? Africa? Perhaps that'll work, but it's going to take persistence. It's going to take some resources to keep getting the message out there and to keep talking to people, preaching, and so on.
Okay.
Any questions?
Let's see if we got any more questions in the chat room. And I just want to give a couple shout outs. Style is Life, I see you. Hey, Mika. How you doing, Mika? Mika's in the house. We got Doug. Nancy, I see you. Tech Nubian, again, thank you for coming. I know Tech Nubian, Nancy, you guys, and Style is Life. I know you guys were here earlier, and Doug, and JJ Redwood. I appreciate you guys supporting and coming on to the live chat. I really appreciate it. There's so many entertainment options out there, but you guys choose to spend an hour or so with us. So I really appreciate you guys. You guys coming out and supporting the page and supporting Brother Baba. Also, too, man, we're going to be working on a fundraiser for Brother Baba. He's wants to come to. In fact, tell him what you're trying to do as far as school.
I want to read in shipping, logistics, and so I'm working on my master's right now. I'm looking to attend. I have 2 options now: New York University and the State of New York, State University of New York College, also in I think around Long Island in New York. I also have admission all the way in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
Also in shipping. I'm interested in shipping because it's technical, and I want to see if we can work with some brothers in the future, to own our own ships. Why not?
Right.
Play a role in the trade, international trade, and take control of some aspect of that. So that's what I'm working on now.
All right, man, that's great. So, we're working on putting something together for Awini, to help him, fulfill his dream and come over and learn skills and then go back and teach him, go back to Ghana and teach him. So we're definitely working on that. Let's see if we got any more questions in the chat room.
Yeah, I really encourage people to ask questions because, there are a lot of misconceptions about how things are done in Africa. And I hope if it's related to how resources are managed, I think I can touch on that.
Anybody got any other questions? No, okay. Let me ask you this, Awini. A time frame.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've pretty much been going through. In fact, here we go. Good question, Ludi. How optimistic are you as far as Africans getting together and taking back control of our natural resources? How optimistic are you?
Oh, I'm very optimistic because of the circumstances. Let's bear in mind that when Africa gained its independence, it happened like a wave. You see, basically between the 50s and 60s, so many, I think more than half or so of African countries gained their independence, but that was only political. It was supposed to proceed to economic independence. That's what we're fighting for now. We want economic independence. And so the circumstances are here. The tide is here. And I'm very optimistic because, if you ask those relatives of those who drowned, trying to go to Libya, go into Europe from Libya and so on, they'll tell you, we need to address this, You see, so I think with rising unemployment, and the youth not having enough of their share of the resources. I think Africa is ripe for a change, and I believe it's going to happen, but it has to be organized.
Okay. Another question is by Eric B. Quasi. Can we have a total liberation in Africa without bloodshed?
Yeah, I mean, this particular move we are talking about, economic independence. No, I don't see it being bloody, because you see, let me take Ghana for instance. Nkrumah's party, right, the CPP.
Mm-hmm.
It's a minority, but it's still alive,
Right.
right? So if the arguments begin to pile up and people begin to see that these few parties, political parties, have basically nothing to offer, if they see that there are two sides of the same coin, yeah, and the politicking is right, they'll just go and vote for a third party, which is likely to be more progressive. So I don't really see there's no need for that sort of bloodshed, honestly.
Okay. And then another question, Miss Chanel Chateau. Is there a lack of trust among African people?
That's a tough one, but I think that lately the politicking in Africa has made it such that it's difficult to trust certain people in power. Those in power are difficult to trust, but among the rest of us, I think it's pretty much like everywhere else. I tend not to want to limit this to Africans alone, because remember, we're also human. So you can't. I don't really think that there's distrust. I think we're as human as anybody else, any other group of people. We have a communal sense of being. This is where we come from, but we must remember that is changing very fast. As you know, Dynast, you've been to the villages, and when you come to the city, it's a bit different. People minding their business sometimes. There's a change, definitely, but I don't think it amounts to distrust. I wouldn't go so far as to say that.
Okay. Here, Tech Nubian says, waiting for a democratic election is an old dream. How do you feel about that? Are we being delusional, thinking that? Go ahead.
We're not being delusional. I mean, if you study how Ghana gained its independence and how Nkrumah came to power, he came through the ballot. He didn't come through the gun.
Okay.
One thing I have realized: those who came through the gun, they don't stay long. You can't sustain a country using force.
Yeah,
military force.
I gotta disagree with you on that. I mean, you look at Mobutu. He stayed a little bit. He stayed a while. Your boy Thomas, what's his name? Blaise from Burkina Faso.
Blaise Compaoré.
Blaise Compaoré. He stayed a while too, and they came through via the gun.
But you have to bear something in mind. They came. I'm talking about a progressive government. They came.
Okay.
These people, they were working for the French. Blaise Compaoré was not touched by the French because he was working for them. He betrayed Thomas Sankara to work. You see, and the same goes for Mobutu. Mobutu was put there again by the Europeans. The Belgians used to be there. They brought Mobutu to take out Patrice Lumumba, and so they kept him there. And so, but when his time came, he had to go. But what I'm trying to say is, in looking for a long-lasting solution, you see, we can't have a military system. It's just not. It's not the ideal.
Why not?
It's not the ideal. It's un-African. We are not. People don't understand it. We are not. We are not. People. The media portrays us as violent people. Naturally, we are not violent people. I
Right.
mean, I go to my village, and those are some of the most humble people you'll come across. They don't like, to get all violent and all that. They'll do it if it's necessary, but no, I don't think so. So it's not sustainable. What Africa needs is to build a power base like that of Russia or even the United States, where you have an inner core of people
Yeah,
who control.
but Russia and the U.S. they have a strong military though.
Yeah, but the issue is that they use their military differently. Every country deserves to or has the right to defend itself. I'm not saying the military is bad. I'm
Right.
only saying you can't use it to impose yourself on your people. You can use it to protect yourself. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But to use it to impose oneself on, your own people, it won't last. There's something is going to go wrong. But what I was trying to say is, it really, from if you study these countries and even China, I mean, it doesn't make sense that one man controls the whole country. I don't care if he was voted into power or not, but it just doesn't make sense that the destiny of the country is in the hands of one man and one man alone. It's too volatile. What is actually happening is that there's a core that actually pulls the strings, and this man in front of it, he represents this core of people. They are the shot callers, you see, and we need to uh, begin to develop in that direction, because it really shouldn't matter who is ruling the, well, it plays a little bit of a role, but the president doesn't play a big role. Let me give you an example. President Trump cannot come and just go totally off US policy. It's not going to happen. Every president, that if you look at, from what I know, the presidents that were assassinated in the US, if we dig into it, and they use what you call Manchurian candidates, so it's untraceable. But these people were set on rebelling against the system, the federal system,
Mhm.
taken out. Now, if you look at the successive presidents, the policies have not changed much. You may have different brands of the same policy, but it's not going to change because the country has a direction it is heading, and it's not that one man who determines that direction. He only comes and he executes the plan. That's all he does as a leader. So this democracy should be understood properly. It's not just about changing governments. And as most people are preaching in Africa, we need a change, we need a president, a new president. It really doesn't matter. What matters is what is the core policy of the country and which people are safeguarding. You must have a core that safeguards this policy and ensures that nobody, no president goes against these policies. And if he does that, he does it at the risk of his own life. That is what we don't have. We have single man leaderships. That's not going to last. It's not done anywhere, not in China, not in Russia, not in Germany. Nowhere is that done. That person you're seeing is just a face. There are a lot of policies that he must abide by, and he can't go off on his own. He may have a different style. There's room in there for priority. The president prioritizes this over that. That's true, but he can't go and basically bring in policies that are against the pillars of the country. It's not going to happen. So we need to move toward that. Is there any question?
No, I mean, some people are saying take a page out of the book of Kim Jong Un in North Korea. And some people are saying, they say that you cannot be an angel in a world full of devils.
It's not about being an angel. You're not getting me. In this system, if you put one man against a people who are more, they're organized, they have an inner core, you're gonna lose. You're gonna look, because all they need to do, look at what happened to Libya.
Right. Right.
All they needed to do was to remove just one man, and the whole house came tumbling down. That doesn't happen with a well-established system. If you remove that one man, the system still stays. You can't get rid of it. And of course, every country has to be backed up with the military force, right? But
Right.
if accidentally Putin gets killed, President Putin gets killed, I have no doubt that Russia will bring another president that is going to toe basically the same line. He may do it differently, but he's not going to go away or divert from Russian policy. It's not going to happen. They have their policy. That's the problem. It's not about being an angel. It's about being strategic. Nobody does that.
No, you're right. Let's see if we got any more questions in the chat room. Some people say we need a like you had an Arab Spring. They say we need an Afro Spring. What are your thoughts on that?
We don't need. That's what you call a mass movement. We don't need a mass movement. We need a more organized sort of change. Mass movements, they're full of energy, and they appear to bring change. But what happens is people don't ensure that when they kick somebody out the door, they are not replacing that person with another one who is far worse. You see, so the Arab Spring, I wouldn't say it necessarily, changed the Arab world positively. I wouldn't say so yet. I would observe, and of course, Gaddafi is one of the last to come down in the Arab Spring, the so-called Arab Spring, right?
Right.
But we know that there were forces behind some of these things, and so the aim was not necessarily to, do good to the Arabs. Some of them were being misled, and that sort of movement doesn't guarantee anything. The movement that guarantees something is when people know why they don't want a certain leader or a certain leadership style, and they know what the alternative should be, and they know how they should ensure that they get the alternative. And this can happen without any Arab Spring style movement. It's just a matter of getting messages like this out and getting people to change their minds. It's simple. It takes time, but it's longer lasting, and it wins the argument at the end of the day.
Okay, let's see if we got any more questions. Yeah, man. I mean, I just, again, Brother Baba, I appreciate you coming on. Okay, so somebody said that you're contradicting yourself, that the people will vote for a different government. That's a mass movement. What are your thoughts on that?
No, fine. That can be, it depends on how you look at it. But I was talking about a mass movement in terms of, a mass uprising.
Uh-huh.
In the way that it happened in the Arab Spring. That's the kind of mass movement that I'm saying. It's not necessarily a guarantee that change, the good change is going to come. But I don't see that as a contradiction. If I came off that way, then that's not how I meant it. What I foresee is people just they may not necessarily need to go on the streets and make noise about it, but if they change their minds, things are going to change, and it does not necessarily need to happen overnight, because you see the things that happen so radically, they're not easily sustained. But even if you have a progressive movement of people in terms of mind change, and it takes even 10 years, and you're sure that the progression is going to bring long-lasting change, is better than to rush it, and then you don't know who you replace, and then you come back and sit down, and you don't achieve anything. You see, the kind of change right now is one that is more, reflective, and it doesn't need any violence, honestly.
Okay. Okay. Let's see if we got any more questions in the chat room real quick. Okay, so and we'll close out on this. So let's go ahead, and I want you, Awini, in detail. What is the African way of taking back control of our destiny and taking back control of our resources? What is the African way? That'll be the last question.
It's education, simple as that. The African way is education. If we get more people to be conscious, a lot of people don't understand what is going on. You see, because they're not educated to understand what's going on. You see, so if we keep pushing the message and getting it out there, a lot of people I have met here who have gotten a bit of information. They're very excited, and they're enthusiastic. They're spreading the word. You see, so we need more of that. Once that happens, then we have set the stage for a long, sustained change to take place. Any kind of change can be built on an educated people, a people who know what we are about and why we are where we are, and what we need to do, you see, in order to get back what is ours. Because there's still a lot of resources in Africa that are unexplored. We need a system that will ensure that in the future we stop depending so much, on outsiders, and we have lost our self-dignity, our self-respect. In doing so, it has to stop. And if we are able to do that and check corruption, put in place our own systems to check ourselves, then we are on the way to progress.
All right, cool. Well, we'll go ahead and end there. Brother Awini, thank you so much for coming back on. I mean, you can go ahead and close out. If there's anything else you want to say in closing, go ahead and say now.
Yeah. Well, I think in particular, I need to bring in the African American community or the African diaspora community into this, and what doing in order to facilitate some of this. So the message should be pushed out more. Reach out to yourselves, reach out to Africans that live in America or elsewhere in the world, and get them,
Awini.
things that we do not make, and that's a very dangerous thing. We consume basically everything we consume here, maybe except for water and a few basic things. They are imported. We have the potential to produce a lot of the things we consume. We should be doing that and create a market in Africa that benefits us. Every other country is doing that. Why not us?
Right.
What is wrong with us taking advantage of what is rightfully ours? You see, so in the African American community can again look into investment opportunities. You see, there's nothing wrong with identifying strategic cashew nuts has become big and almost rivaling. I wouldn't say almost, but it's even rivaling the production of cocoa in Ghana right now. It's a cash.
What's the call? Say
Some
it again.
farmers are even talking.
What's the name of the crop again? Say it again.
Cashew.
Cashew. Okay, cashew. Okay.
Cashew.
Yeah.
You heard that?
Yeah, cashew. I got it.
So it's becoming big because even now there's a problem because people are finding that cashew is more valuable than cocoa right now.
Okay.
So some farmers they decide to farm cashew rather than cocoa. But cocoa is still our number one cash crop as far as I'm concerned. So there are business opportunities. I think the African American community, if you organize yourselves, because the group economics is very important. If you are able to pool together your resources, you can invest in some of these areas, and you can be an agent of change.
Absolutely.
So that's what I have to say.
Yes, sir. Well, Awini, thank you for coming back on. Make sure you guys are following me. Search for Huru on Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, and Facebook. Again, search for Huru, all the way spelled out. Make sure you go to dynasamir.com. Make sure you go to searchforhuru.com. And then make sure you go to Amazon.com, search your name, Dynasamir, buy a book. But especially Instagram. Go to my Instagram page, search for Huru if you're not already following me already. Please go to search for Huru on Instagram. Africa Personified, I've put that out, which is pretty much my coffee table book. I'm still going to do a physical book, but right now I'm doing it via Instagram for right now. So, Awini, how can people get in contact with you? Oh, did he? Oh, we lost him. Guys, I'm going to put Awini Baba's contact information. Excuse me. I'm going to put Awini's contact information in the description. So if you guys want to reach out to him, you'll have his contact information if you want to connect with him. So I know Zion Roots, you said you wanted to reach out to him because you're going to North Ghana here shortly. And I'll be in Ghana in November. So again, people, I appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you for the support. Till next time, come back. Please come back. Till next time. Peace.